I'm still with Milka here. It's quite an emotional yet an inspiring story. You know, Milka, every time we talk, I'm glad that we are using past tense. We are like, yes. I used to. Yes. This happened. We did. Absolutely. And that is the most inspiring bit of your story. And now, just let us know very briefly how you went through all the 8 sessions, and as you share, you also had to go to India. So just share with us briefly about the 8 sessions, then what led to you now being taken to India.
All right. So after the 8 sessions, now I did the PET scan, and it had recurred in the spleen. So I had to do now the 8 sessions for chemo, that is. And this one I had said was more tougher than the first one, and now I was now looking like a patient, and I did not feel any beautiful. And I remember my dad told me, the God who took you through the first one will take you through the second one. Absolutely. And I remember even through it all, I remember like God gave me strength. I cannot explain how I went through all the 8 sessions, but I was counting down. I was counting down to the very last one, and God took me through it. I remember I would walk into the hospital, and the nurse will tell me, "See, you know your bed. Go to your bed." I had become a regular, and every time she will say, "Go to your bed," I will refuse it and say, "It's not my bed, because this is not my finality. I know God has good plans for me," and He actually did. And after my 8 sessions, I went for my PET scan, and finally, I was declared cancer-free. Wow. Now I was in remission, and I was so happy. I was so happy. And when I went to see my oncologist, she told me I had an autoimmune disorder, that is rheumatoid arthritis. I had cancer, first line and second line. And for her, she would suggest that we go to India for a transplant. A stem cell transplant, that is. And now we had to do arrangements for India. We do the visas, we get approximations of cost. It is cheaper there, but of course coming from our country to there, it is a bit expensive. Absolutely. But now I have seen that Nairobi West has brought bone marrow transplant, which is amazing, because most people fly all the way to India for a bone marrow transplant. And us having it in the country is a big step for us. A lot of people will be helped. So after my 8 sessions, after I've been pronounced cancer-free, I am now going to India for a transplant. I go to India, and I remember just before we went to India, my mom gets COVID. The night before we fly out, her results come in positive.
So she can't fly with you?
We cannot fly. And now I can't go alone, because the system asks that I have a guardian.
And it's only your mom that was given the visa?
Absolutely. It's only my mom, because we were under her insurance. It has to be her. So we have to wait. And we wait. We wait for 2 weeks. We go for tests. She's still positive. We wait for another 1 week. We go for tests. She's still positive. And now after the 3rd week, I am positive. Oh, no. So I have cancer, and now I have COVID. But again, I say I am favored, because when my mom showed all the symptoms of COVID, I was perfectly okay. Like things you cannot explain how they were working. For me, it's just God, because I cannot explain it. And finally, after a whole month, we're now negative, and we get to fly to India. So we go to India. We book the hotels, we go into hospital, we do all the tests. I do another PET scan. It's confirmed, yes, I'm in remission and I am fit to have the transplant. So when you do the transplant, you first do chemo, 5 consecutive days. Intense chemo. It is chemo not like anything we have in Kenya. So the way the second one hit me, this was like 5 times as bad. So in the first session that I did in India, the small hair that had started growing back, down again. It was so intense, I could not wake up from bed. I remember my mom would literally have to bathe me. She would literally have to change me while in bed. I would vomit everything I ate. And my mom is a person who cannot look at you vomiting. But she had to be strong, because she was the only one I got there. And I remember the oncologist in India will come in and find my mom reading the Bible, and he will tell her, keep praying to your God, because he's the only way out of this. Yeah. And I remember my bishop, my people from Kenya would call in to check on me. And that was a time when the COVID in India was hitting high levels. Wow. Just when COVID was at its peak. People were dying day in, day out. People would call and ask, are you people alive? How are you doing? How is it there? But when we went into hospital, we were confined in a room, and there was no going out, there was no interaction with people outside, and we were just in a safe space. But the days were long. Hours were not moving. And I remember when I was actually after 5 days of chemo, I had to do the transplant. So the transplant, we had to harvest cells. Because my bone marrow was okay, I was my donor. I donated for myself. Yeah. So they harvest, and harvesting, they have to collect around 2 billion cells. That is a lot. And that is 8 consecutive hours on a bed, just waiting for them to be harvested. No moving, no going to the washroom, no nothing. And my mother would change me in that bed. She would, every time I want to go to the washroom, she will help me while on that bed. And I am so grateful for her, because how would I have done that without her? And after 2 days of harvesting and 5 days of chemo, I finally had to do the transplant. Yeah. The transplant, I think, was the hardest part of my chemo journey. It is literally, you see how the drip, you're given transfusion. Now that is transfusion in 2 minutes. Like the whole bag going in 2 minutes. I will literally feel my heart beating. My oxygen levels were dropping. Everything was on standby, because any minute you can go into cardiac arrest. My mom was praying. I have never had her pray that hard. She was praying while crying. But in that moment, I would feel like I am literally going. My heart is beating. My oxygen levels are dropping. I am panting for air. But that was the only way to do it. Yeah. And finally, we went through it. Wow. And we were grateful. And the days after that were a bit tough. But the doctors there were saying, how your body is recovering, we have not seen this. Yeah. Usually, a transplant patient will recover in 3 months. I recovered in 3 weeks. Wow. By the end of 21 days, I was totally okay.
You were still in India?
I was still in India. We stayed in India for 2 months. Okay. Yeah. So by the end of 21 days, my levels, my platelet levels, my white blood cells levels had started coming back up. Because basically a transplant is rebooting the system. Yeah. The old is gone, and now the new has come, literally, like the Bible says. Yeah. And for me, the old had gone, and now I was being given a new start. And I always say I have a second birthday, April 31st, and that is when I was renewed. That is when I was given a second chance at life. And after my recovery, everything went well. But that was a time when India had high COVID cases, so all flights had been cancelled. Yeah. There were no flights from India to Kenya. So we are done. Everything has been successful, but now we can't come back to the country. We try with the Kenyan embassy, but after a few days or weeks, we finally got a flight back. Yeah. And now we came home, and finally,
what a celebration.
Absolutely. It was such a celebration, coming home cancer-free, out of the woods, and a successful transplant. And for me, my journey has been God. Coming back home, safe and sound, in full health, it was God. And that is why I am here sharing my story, my testimony. Because my journey is my testimony. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. And I can just imagine, we are looking at 2021.
That was 2021.
Wow.
Yes.
I have no words. As you put it, it's indeed a testimony.
Yes.
And just looking at you, so young. Yes. And when someone is telling, when you're sharing that story, I mean, as you put it, when you were diagnosed, you had not even lived half your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you telling your story, it's let me just say, it's a testimony, and it's quite inspiring. And you just see how God works.
Yes.
How His favor, His grace and mercies are always renewed upon us.
Yes, yes. Yeah. So that was in 2021, and now I had been so used to sickness. I didn't know what next. I was used to a path of darkness, and now there's light. Now I've been given a second chance at like, so what next? And in all my sickness, I had not thought of what after cancer.
After cancer.
Absolutely.
All right. And now, what would you say is one lesson that you've learned from your journey and from your testimony? And now, as you say, you had not yet just realized or thought of what exactly you'll do after. So how did you now get into advocacy and the issues to do with mental health?
Yes. Yeah. So after coming back and me being pronounced cancer-free and me having not thought of what next, people started coming to me just for advice.
Yeah.
Like, Milka, my aunt, my mother has been diagnosed with cancer. What do we do? Can you help us? And that is where I realized I have a ministry.
Yeah.
It's a ministry.
Very
because
true.
I am speaking from a point of experience.
Yeah.
And I am speaking from a point of professionalism because I have done psychology in school. And now when I tell you this, when I tell you it's okay to be okay, I actually know to not be okay. I actually know how it feels to not be okay.
Yeah.
And I have the knowledge, the professionalism to tell you as a counselor, when you're having panic attacks, you can do this.
Yeah.
You can breathe. You can take time out. You can cry.
Yeah.
You can sit in silence. And for me, that was something that I had never thought. Like, me going through the experience that I had gone through, I had never thought was for a greater purpose.
Yeah.
But when God has put a purpose in your life, He actually is faithful to actualize it in your life. And I remember in 2022, my godfather, Mr. Karaoke, the one who had walked my whole journey, holding my hand, passed on due to cancer.
Yeah.
After almost 10 years of being a survivor, he passed on. And that took a toll on me because he gave me a mantra that cancer is not a death sentence.
Yeah.
And now 10 years later, so why are you dying of cancer? But my sister reminded me, in the book of Philippians, I think it's 1:21, I think it's there. It says, to live is Christ and to die is gain.
Yeah.
And Mr. Karaoke, dying was gain.
Yeah.
Because he was born again. So living is grace and dying is Christ.
Yeah.
So cancer is not a death sentence. And that is my takeaway from it all.
Yeah.
Cancer is not a death sentence, but to live is gain. And to die out of cancer is gain, as long as you know the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And I want to assume probably just from your journey, from the experience, from your testimony, that's when you now just started creating awareness about cancer, specifically cervical cancer.
Yes.
So you are not diagnosed with cervical cancer, but again, you create awareness about cervical cancer. Why this specific cancer?
So most women in the world end up being diagnosed with cervical cancer. But cervical cancer is the only type of cancer as at now that we can prevent 100%. Cervical cancer is prevented through vaccination, HPV vaccine. And most people who are, most ladies, young girls between the ages of 9 to 26 can get the vaccination. So the reason why I am an advocate is because I know how it feels like to be a cancer patient. And I will not wish it on anyone. And if I can save one girl out there, if I can save 2 girls, if I can tell someone to tell someone, tell a mother to tell her daughter, tell a daughter to tell her mother to go to the hospital and just get the HPV vaccine, then we are preventing cervical cancer. Because if we can prevent it, we cannot prevent someone going into getting Hodgkin's lymphoma. We cannot prevent leukemia. But cervical cancer, we can. And if we can, why not advocate for it? So that is why I became an advocate, because I know how it feels to have cancer. And if we can prevent it, why not?
All right. And now you've spoken of the support system, you've spoken of your family, you've spoken of your friends, your doctors. I'm sure you're still very close to your oncologist and definitely, and the rheumatologist. And just that support system, I mean, having walked through all this journey, what would you say are some of the gaps that as a survivor,
Yes.
you realized, and how can these gaps be filled?
That's quite interesting, because as a counseling psychology student, we always have to do a research for school. So my research in school was the psychological effects of the non-professional caregivers. Remember, nurses are trained.
Yeah.
Remember, doctors are trained.
Yeah.
But who trains my mother?
Yeah.
Who trains my sister? Who trains all the other non-professional caregivers? So there is a gap for the non-professional caregivers. No one is thinking about them. No one has certain reason that these people have not been medically trained to deal with the stress, because it is overwhelming. The thing with a family is, when one part, they said a family is like a body. When one part is aching, the whole family is aching. When finances are being drained from one part, the whole family is suffering. So there is a gap for the non-professional caregivers. Who is looking into them? Who is advising them? Who is working with them? Who is ensuring that their mental health is okay? That they are being told it is okay not to be okay when your loved one is not okay. Yes, and I think that is the greatest gap I have seen in my journey as a cancer survivor.
Right, and definitely we hope that is one of the gaps that can be filled.
Absolutely.
And I think just probably just to share on that, I think we have palliative care.
Yes.
And I think palliative care takes care of both the patient and the caregivers as well. And I think in Kenya, most people have looked at palliative care, or not just in Kenya, worldwide, people have looked at palliative care as end of life.
Yes.
But it's generally not end of life. It's just us looking at now issues to do with mental health, spiritual health, among other issues that these patients go through. And now just to talk about now the rheumatoid, as we raise awareness still about the rheumatoid arthritis, what would you say, and still where is the gap? How can the gap be filled?
Absolutely. Rheumatoid arthritis, first of all, is an autoimmune disorder. It is basically your immune system working against you instead of for you. So it eats up the joints, and you get the severe joint pains. They swell and they're so tender. You find most patients of rheumatoid arthritis have deformed hands or legs. Some cannot walk. And at times people do not understand the pain. But arthritis hurts. It is a severe pain that you cannot explain unless you have seen your loved one in it. And I think what the gap I would want people to extend or to feel is just the kindness for someone going through that, because it is really painful. This person cannot walk. Just be kind to them. Offer them the help that you can give them. Yes, and the other gap is children. Children too do get arthritis. Arthritis has been perceived for a very long time as an old person's disease. And it is very true that most old people are affected by it, but children too get arthritis. It is not only an old person's disease. It is not something wrong that they have done to get arthritis. It just happens. Just like how anyone would have a cold, someone would happen to have arthritis as well. At times it's in the family line. At times you just cannot explain it. But children too do get arthritis, so be kind. And when you have arthritis, do not suffer in silence. Speak up, because there is help. You can manage that pain. There's medical forms of treatment for arthritis. Do not suffer in silence. Yes.
All right, great about that. And now, even as we just wind up, as a psychologist, first of all, congratulations for going through all that and still going back to school and graduating. Congratulations for that. And now, as a psychologist, how does your experience help you, even as you counsel and talk to these patients? Not just cancer patients, I want to assume, but all patients or all people that you meet.
Absolutely. So, first of all, me being in the counseling profession I did not get cancer, then get into counseling. I was first a counseling student, then I happened to get cancer. But I think, the Bible says all things work for good. It was all for my good, because I do not think I would have gone through it the way I did if I was not a counseling psychology student. So for me, it was purposed. It was planned. It was all in God's plan, His perfect will. And how my profession has helped me in terms of my journey, my experience, is that I counsel, especially I am very passionate with cancer patients because I counsel from a point of experience, from a point of I relate to what you're saying.
Yeah.
I give hope having gone through it, and that gives me a better standing point in terms of my experience and my profession. And also for people who are not cancer patients, I extend the grace to them because I will have wanted the same for me.
Yeah.
So I counsel from a point of I empathize with them. I imagine.
Sympathize.
I do not sympathize because I cannot understand how exactly it is in your shoes, but I can only imagine. So I empathize. And because I have been through a number of things, I know how it feels for me. I can only imagine how it is in your shoes. And that is how it has been for me professionally as a psychologist. Yes.
Wow. Wonderful. And now before we look at definitely just your future plans, you said you just graduated. I know with cancer, and even as we talk of the caregivers, there's the issue of mental health.
Yes.
And I know for you, you are not just going through the treatment, the chemo, you talked of the panic attacks and everything. How would you say this entire journey, or just your testimony, how did it take a toll on your mental health? And what can you say to someone that has just been diagnosed of probably, let me say, cancer, as they are going through the chemo, as they are going through everything? How can they take care of their mental health? And how can caregivers take care of this person's mental health?
Absolutely. So for me, it took a toll on me because ideally when you're getting to a point of having panic attacks, you're not okay. Yeah. When you're getting to a point of isolation and just withdrawing from what you're used to doing, when you're getting to a point of you no longer enjoy the things you initially enjoyed, then you are not in a place of mental health or mental wellness. And for me, I had gotten to that point where I just want to numb this feeling and go away and run away. I was literally running away. And that was for me my point of, I was slowly like falling into a form of depression. I had almost all the symptoms of it because things were not okay. And I was literally falling into that. But for me, how I handled that is I went for therapy. Because being a counseling psychology student and me not being able to help myself, I had to seek a professional to help me out. I was also speaking to my sister. When my sister brought in the slogan of "We will win," that was her saying, this is a safe space. Let's talk. What are you feeling? Yeah. What are you fearing? And what cancer does is it brings some form of fear because you are not certain of what tomorrow holds. And that fear eats you up from inside. And if you don't actually talk about it, if you don't talk about the emotions you're feeling, then it takes a toll on you. And for me, that is what I was doing before my sister came in and brought up the "We will win" slogan. Yeah. This is a safe space. Let's talk. So for any caregiver out there, for any person taking care of their loved one that has cancer, create a safe space. Tell them, talk to them, help them get into those feels and those emotions. Because what emotions do is they want to be processed. Yeah. If you suppress them, they will come and burst. And it will not be a pleasant sight. So form that safe space for your loved one. Help them talk. Help them talk about what they're feeling, what they're going through. And also, if you can afford therapy, seek professional help. Oh. Go to a counselor, go to a therapist, because it helps. And suffering in silence does not help.
It doesn't.
Again, I am a Christian, and I say God is a person who can keep secrets. Pray. If you have a pastor, if you have someone you can walk with, help them. Because as human beings, we always want to have that superior power that we can reach out to. And if God is that for you, reach out to him. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful. Now, just the final one. What does the future look like for Milka? What are some of the things probably that you will do even as you continue just raising awareness about cancer?
Absolutely. I will keep raising awareness. I am looking at, I am starting a YouTube channel for myself because this story is not for me to keep.
It's not.
I did not experience it for me to be silent. So I will be sharing my stories and bringing on people who have gone through cancer as well. Just creating awareness out there and telling people and creating a safe platform for even people who are actually going through chemo to just come and say what they're feeling and how their journey has been like, for us to empower people out there. I am also looking to work with NGOs that create advocacy. I am a member of a cancer organization that is called Kilele. Yes, I am a member of Kilele, and Kilele is very vocal to create advocacy, especially for cervical cancer and breast cancer. Yes, and those are some of the ways that I am looking forward to continue as I create awareness for mental health, as well as cancer awareness and rheumatoid arthritis awareness, because these are things I've gone through. Yes.
Wow, thank you so much, Milka.
Yes.
And now to a word to the caregivers. I mean, you've gone through the hands of so many caregivers.
Yes.
From your bishop, your mom, your sister kids, the oncologist, everyone.
Yeah.
What's your word to them, even to other caregivers that are taking care of patients with cancer?
Okay. To my caregivers, my bishop, my mama, my sisters, my friends, I'd like to thank you so much, because I wouldn't have been here if it was not for you. Thank you for all those who prayed with me. Thank you for all those who encouraged me. And for all those caregivers out there that are taking care of their loved one, keep supporting them. Keep talking to them, encouraging them, and don't forget yourself. Do not forget yourself. Do not lose yourself in them, in that whole process. So take care of your mental health, take care of your physical health, and take care of your patients. To all the patients out there, I say strongly, cancer is not a death sentence. Keep fighting, keep braving it. You will win. And I know there is a purpose for everything, so keep believing and you will get there. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Milka. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being so courageous to share your story. I know that we have so many patients who are still not in the space that you are, or not in the stage that you are to come out and share. But it takes courage to do that. So thank you for sharing your story. And just to read a few of the feedback right here. It's Alex is saying that Alex Ubira is saying you made it.
Yes.
Yeah, and many of the comments are just about your journey and just congratulating you through what you went through. And definitely it's hopeful to people outside there, not just those that have cancer or those that are survivors and warriors, but to everyone. I mean, there are many people going through so many challenges, so many sickness, and yours is a story of hope. Once again, Milka, asante sana, and most importantly, for your courage and for your time to share with us.
Thank you as well.
All right, to you. Okay, I'm just reminded by my producer, you mentioned of opening a YouTube channel.
Yes.
I'll be your subscriber number one
Thank
in case
you.
you've not open. But of course, you have a name probably in mind.
Absolutely.
And you can still share your social media handles.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can find me on Instagram at Milka_Mutuku. You can find me on Facebook at Milka Mutuku. My YouTube channel that is coming up will be called Milka Mutuku. Follow me, share, subscribe, and like. Yes.
Wow, thank you so much, Milka. Definitely, people will go looking for you. I hope you're going to open that YouTube channel.
I will. I will.
All right, thank you so much for tuning in. That was Milka Mutuku, a cancer survivor, mental health awareness advocate, cervical cancer awareness advocate, as well as a psychologist. So thank you so much. I hope that this Thursday morning, that story has truly just jump-started you. In case you are feeling so down, in case you are hopeless, in case you're like Milka, who was not seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, I hope you're now seeing that light at the end of the tunnel. And just to borrow her words or her slogan together with her sister Kate, you will win. So thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Aida Muzatsi. Have a beautiful Thursday.